Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my Season 20 ranking. And yeah, so like I mentioned at the end of my review of the 5 Doctors, I actually kind of like Season 20 more after this rewatch, and I think I might say the same for 19. No, not as much for 19 actually. More 20. 20 is actually pretty good. It's not that strong, but it's pretty good. There are some weaklings, as we'll get to. Sorry for any noise outside, but it's possibly the 5th Doctor's best season. I said possibly. We'll see what 21's got to offer. And even then, they'll only be up to Case of Androzani. The last one will be Colin Baker's 6th Doctor's first story. But yeah, Season 20, I actually think this is quite a good season for the most part. So let's get down and dirty into the Season 20 ranking, including the 20th anniversary special, The 5 Doctors. And so the stories are Arc of Infinity, Snakedance, Mawdryn Undead, Terminus, Enlightenment, and the King's Demons, plus the 5 Doctors. So, without further ado, here is my ranking. Starting, of course, as we are including the 5 Doctors, with number 7. And also, even if this season had 7 stories, then it would be 8 places if we included the 5 Doctors. So, yes, so it's still 7 places. Same for season 21 when we get to it, because we'll be including Twin Dilemma as that's part of the season. So, season 20 ranking, starting, of course, with number 7. Now, number 7, this is a disappointment. This is a disappointing story. And considering it's forced to be the season finale due to Resurrection of the Daleks being moved due to fucking strikes, and yeah, and being a big, what was it? It was March to November, 8 months until the 20th anniversary special. And unlike The Name of the Doctor in 2013, it did not leave us on a good note. Resurrection of the Daleks might have, but not this story. And what's even worse is that it followed a story that could have also have been a season finale, the end of the Black Guardian trilogy, and it would have wrapped up the season pretty well, for the most part. But no, because of fucking strikes, we've got this story as our season finale. The King's Demons. Yeah, talk about ending the season on a letdown. This story does have a plot, but it's the first episode is bogged down by the historical setting. If it was a pure historical, this wouldn't be so bad. However, the Master is introduced midway through, and it's very obvious that it's the Master anyway. That this character was actually the Master in disguise, and it's the Master's least convincing disguise of all time, at least on screen. Yeah, they got lazy with this one. At least when we get to Marco Durrani, when he's pretending to be a scarecrow, he's actually pretending to be a scarecrow. So yeah, disappointment here, and also the chameleon stuff. We don't get introduced to chameleon until 15 minutes through part 2. Last 10 minutes of the story, and unlike Dodo's introduction when they had that in the last 10 or so minutes of the massacre, but that was put onto the end of a story after they'd finished the story. They'd done the story, now they've got some time left over. And yeah, it was a bit too much time left over, but at least it happened after the story. This time, Chameleon's introduction it should have happened earlier in the story. Like, maybe start of part 2 at the very latest. But no. And also, I don't really like the side characters, apart from this guy who owns the castle, until he turns on the Doctor, and his cousin, who sadly dies. Yeah, and it's just not that great, and Turlo should be coming into his own as a companion after no longer being under the influence or control of the Black Guardian, or in a deal with him. He should be now coming into his own as a full-time companion. The Doctor and Tegan can properly trust him. What do they do with him? They lock him in a dungeon for an episode. Fan-fucking-tastic. And the way he gets taken to that dungeon, the whole reason behind it is stupid. There isn't even a reason. The Master has some sort of a reason for Lady Isabella, I think that's her name, the wife of the guy who owns the castle. But why he takes her son, and Turlo is another story. I know he wants to finish the job with the son, possibly finish their joust, even though it was legally concluded at the actual event. So he's just holding a grudge now because he doesn't get to kill the guy. At least the Fifth Doctor and Tegan stuff over it, they're good, and Gerald Ford does a good performance as King John and Chameleon. Well, the voice of Chameleon. But the story is nothing. Not really. I mean, the historical side is fine for most parts. I mean, it's not that great of a historical story, but it's fine until the Master comes around. And then it just tries to do the sci-fi stuff at the same time, and it's not working. It's just not working. Plus side is it's only 2 episodes, so you don't have to sit through it as more than 50 minutes of it. Although whether having another episode would have helped, maybe. I don't know. I don't think it would have, to be honest. I think the story just doesn't work. Or at least this version of the story. It needed a rewrite. Oh well, so that's the King's Demons. Moving on to number 6. Number 6 is our season opener. So a disappointing season finale and a season opener. And our season opener is also possibly the weakest Gallifrey story, at least of the classic series. Time Lord story, that would go to Colony in Space. But Gallifrey story, it would be this one. Well, we'll see about when we get to Trial of the Time Lord. But for Gallifrey story, definitely this one. And this is Arc of Infinity. Talk about bringing back a classic villain who you haven't seen for 10 years with a bit of a whimper. Now, I don't mind them not saying it's Omega for the first half of the story in case it becomes a twist. But I think it should have actually been a twist that it's Omega. Or they should have just outright said it's Omega. But the way it's played is it's not really handled that well. And surely the Time Lords really could have come up with a better solution than to kill the Doctor in order to extinguish this creature out. I mean, come on, there must have been another way. You're fucking Time Lords, do something. And the guards, this is possibly the guard, the Celestial Guards at their stupidest. Shoot first, ask questions next week. Fucking bastards. I mean, I can understand Commander Maxwell's character, but the guards, just wait a minute before you shoot at someone. Jesus fucking Christ. And the Amsterdam stuff with the boys, it's alright. I mean, it's not that great. Amsterdam looks nice. They do some great location filming, especially for part 4, and the chase through Amsterdam is quite fun. But it's not going to be as cool as City of Death. The music certainly isn't as cool as City of Death. And yeah, it's just a weak story. It's just not that interesting. There are some good elements, but on the whole, it's not that great. Disappointing season opener. I mean, there's more of a plot than Castrovalva. I'll say that there's more of a plot than Castrovalva, but that's not saying much. So yeah, Arc Infinity. Letdown season, well, not so much a letdown, but just not that great season opener. Okay, we're moving into the good stuff with number 5. Now, number 5, I used to absolutely hate just beyond any story other than Kinder in this era. Well, it's other than Kinder after the rewatch. However, rewatching this story, it's actually pretty good. It's got some fun elements in it, some good characters, some good history. It's just a shame we can't really balance some of this out a bit more with some of the more interesting stuff that's going on at the same time. This is Snakedance. Snakedance is actually quite good, although it might take you a few viewings to appreciate it, like it did with me. It took me a good couple of viewings before I liked it. But it's good, some good bits, although I'm not really keen on them cutting back and forth between the Doctor, Nyssa and Tegan in the TARDIS, and we're seeing all the Mara affecting her, back and forth between Martin Clune's character and a few other people talking about the history. Whilst those bits are great and build up the backstory and everything, they keep cutting every now and again between the two, and like I said in the review, I think it should have been bigger chunks, so they don't cut so often that they cut every other couple minutes, so we can get a whole bunch of information there, and then we can see what the effects with the Mara are now, and then back to the history without having to go back and forth so much. And I also think this is a better story of the Doctor trying to convince people of certain stuff than the Macro Terror. And the characters aren't that side characters aren't that great. However, some of them do get to become Mara possessed people, and they're really great. Janet Fielding gives another fantastic performance here, like with Kinder, which was the saving grace of that story, along with the actual imaginative scenes that was supposed to be the whole story, but wasn't. The scenes I wanted more of, basically. But whilst we don't get that much, we don't really get that, apart from maybe one bit where it's sort of hinting at the Mara's repossession of Tegan's mind. We do get a possessed Tegan, and she is fantastic. And so is Martin Clint when he's possessed by the Mara. He's not that great earlier on, but when he gets possessed by the Mara, he's fantastic. So they get some really great stuff and some really cool moments. I don't like how the Doctor is just put into a cell for most of episode 3, and yeah, that's definitely the case of timeout syndrome, where the Doctor or a companion are put in timeout whilst the rest of the plot does stuff in the meantime. Yeah. And so yeah, Snakedance, but it's still good. It's still got some good moments. It's just that it's not quite good enough for me to consider it brilliant, but I still think it's good. Certainly more than I used to, anyway. Okay, now we're moving on to the good stories. Although the next story does have the same score as Snakedance, I think it's a slightly better story. And yeah, and we're also into the good story era of season 20 as we come to number 4 with Terminus. The second story of the Black Guardian trilogy, and the departure of Nyssa. And I think it's handled really well, even though Nyssa's departure scene is a bit fast-paced. It's not rushed, but it is fast-paced. And whilst you can see where it's coming from, it has only just come out of hiding. Anyway, I mean, it hasn't come out of nowhere, but it has come out quite quickly. Nyssa decides to stay behind and help, but she has her reasons, and it has been made slightly a few minutes earlier why she would want to stay behind and help. So it hasn't come out of nowhere, but it has come quite late in the game. Tegan and Turlo get hardly anything to do apart from nearly crash the ship at one point. And also Turlo's sabotage of the TARDIS earlier on. And instead we got these other two characters, one of which is played by Colin Baker's first wife. Yeah, they're good characters. And also the bad guys, not that interesting, but when they turn good towards the end, some of them turn good and join the Doctor, that they kind of get a bit more interesting. And this big wolf creature thing, he's not really that necessary earlier on. However, later on he's quite useful, so that's cool. And yeah, and like Snakedance, this is which was an improvement on Kinder as a Mara story for the writer, massively improving on his second script to his first. The writer of this story massively improved on his previous story, which was fucking Warrior's Gate. So both Snakedance and Terminus are superior stories to their writers' first scripts that they wrote. So that's always a good sign. I mean, they're not amazing, but they're far superior to their first stories. So that's good. And yeah, so decent stuff and some good stuff in Terminus. It is easily the weakest of the Black Guardian trilogy, but it's certainly not one of the weakest stories of this season. In fact, take out the 5 Doctors, and it's in the top 3 stories of the season. So yeah, Terminus, great. Well, certainly really good. Anyway, number 3. Number 3 is the first entry into the Black Guardian trilogy, and I can confirm that 2 of the remaining top 3 stories of this ranking, and take out the 20th anniversary special, the top 3 stories of the season are, in fact, the Black Guardian trilogy stories. So, number 3 is the first entry into this trilogy, Mawdryn Undead. Yeah, a really good introduction to Turlo, reintroduction to the Black Guardian, return for the Brigadier twice, if you know what I mean. And just a really great start to this trilogy. A great Earthbound story that also has some great sci-fi elements in it, and some really brilliant stuff. Great acting for the most part great story and just works really well. Brilliant stuff from everyone, and looks absolutely great. So yeah, Mawdryn Undead, and Mawdryn's a pretty cool character as well. He gets some good stuff, and one of the guys in this story is played by the guy who played Barusa in The Deadly Assassin. So that's really cool. I don't know if it's the guy who plays Mawdryn or if he was somebody else. The guy who plays Mawdryn was certainly brilliant as that character, and has done does a great job throughout the story, and the whole time thing also plays brilliantly as well. And there's also a few stakes for the Doctor that actually make a lot of sense and can actually be quite real. Imagine if the Doctor gives up his powers of Time Lord, he can no longer regenerate. The 5th incarnation, he would die. Of course, this story, before Case of Androzani, does confirm that the Doctor is on his 5th incarnation, not his 13th, like Brain and Morbius implies that the 4th Doctor might be on his 12th incarnation, having 8 previous selves before the 1st Doctor, and therefore implying that Peter Davison was on his last life. Case of Androzani debunks this with the Doctor regenerating into his 6th incarnation, and then it goes on from there. However, this story has him, as well as also the multiple Doctor stories, have it confirmed that this is indeed the 5th Doctor. So, yeah, and he's got 8 more lives left. That, of course, would become Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann, John Hurt, Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant again, and Matt Smith. Later down the line, before getting a new set of lives to become Peter Capaldi and Jodie Whittaker, plus whoever follows her in the future. Anyone who's watching post-Whittaker era will probably be able to say who. So Mawdryn Undead, good story, and has actual stakes for the Doctor. And if he doesn't give up his regenerative life, then Nissen T can die. See? Stakes. Actual physical and mental well, not mental, but physical stakes. That's how you do stakes in a classic series story. That is good. That is good. Okay, we're moving on to number 2. Now, number 2 is my personal favourite story of the season. But why is it number 2? Well, we're going to get to the reason why number 1 is not my personal favourite story of the season when we get there. But number 2 is my personal favourite story of the 6 stories of this season. I think I've pretty much just given away what my explanation is. So that means number 2 is, of course, the 3rd and final part of the Black Guardian trilogy, Enlightenment. Yeah, this is a great finale to this trilogy. Everything wraps up brilliantly. Everything comes to a close brilliantly. Turlough proves himself to be a great character. It's possibly his best as a character. It's also nice seeing the Dr. Tegan Turlough team before we get into season 21. And it just ties up this whole trilogy really nicely with a great story and some great side characters. Linda Bellingham, that's Trial of Time. Linda Barron is delicious as Rack the pirate, the Eternal, who's playing a pirate captain in her role, and just it's really great. And the Eternals on the ship the Doctor Tegan and Turlough land on, they're also pretty good characters. And it's also nice to see the White Guardian back for the first time since the Ribos operation. And him also trying to warn the Doctor is pretty cool, just like how the Black Guardian tries to help Rack win. Nice, without direct interference. That's pretty cool. And yeah, it's a good story. Also a shout out to the Special Edition for some extremely lovely CGI shots of the spaceship, some fantastic new music during the scenes where we get a bit more of some action moments, and some great visual effects in other places of the story. Nicely done. I mean, I've got more going more into talking. I talk more about the Special Edition in the review, so go check the review out for more on the Special Edition and the pros and cons. But I can certainly praise it for the fantastic visual effects that we do get, especially with the ships. And my God, that bit where they fly over Venus in what would have been in the broadcast version in what is part 2 in Special Edition. It's what was in part 2. That's just amazing. That's really amazing what they do in the Special Edition. Oh, that's so cool. So, my favourite story of Season 20 was in fact Enlightenment but there's still one more story that I think is even better that's part of this ranking. And this story is technically not a Season 20 story, but it's part of the season itself, and that's why it's included in the reviews and the ranking as a Season 20 story, even though it's not an actual story of the season, like how The Christmas Invasion is a Series 2 story, but it's not an episode of Series 2. And therefore, my favourite story of Season 20 overall, including this story, this special, is of course the 20th anniversary special, The 5 Doctors. I fucking love this story. I find this to be, at this point in time, the best Doctor Who story before Remembrance of the Daleks. This is such a fantastic story, and the characters are amazing, the performances are amazing, script, dialogue, mostly great, apart from the Dalek, where it's still on Destiny of the Daleks territory for some reason. That's alright, we'll get better Dalek dialogue with Resurrection of the Daleks. And that's really my only main problem with this story, is the Dalek dialogue is Destiny of the Daleks style, not Resurrection of the Daleks style. Plus a few editing niggles in both versions. Special Edition does help with some of the original versions' faults, but it has its own as well. But overall, the story is fantastic and lovely, brilliant stuff. Loads of great scenes and loads of great characters, and it all plays brilliantly in an hour and 90 minutes, or an hour and 40 minutes for the Special Edition version. And yeah, Special Edition version is also great as well. A bit long, bit draggy in some places, where I think the other one was a bit more to the point. Personally, I think there should be a middle ground version where it's about an hour and 35 minutes, where some bits are extended, but it doesn't feel like it's dragging a little bit. So still a brilliant story, and still really great, and I highly recommend it. It's so fucking good. So yeah, that's the 5 Doctors 20th anniversary special, and what a way to celebrate the 20th anniversary. And some very memorable lines in this story as well. Some really memorable lines. Some of the most memorable lines of the classic series are in this story. So yeah, fantastic stuff. And that is why The 5 Doctors is my favourite story of Season 20. Even though it's technically not a Season 20 story, but it's included in the season as well. And that's why I said Enlightenment was my favourite of the Season 20 stories, because that was the best of the 6 stories of the season. But including The 5 Doctors means that that story has to take the number 1 spot of the entire ranking. So to recap the ranking, number 7 is The King's Demons, number 6 is Arc of Infinity, number 5 is Snakedance, number 4 is Terminus, number 3 is Mawdryn Undead, number 2 is Enlightenment, and number 1, The 5 Doctors, with Enlightenment being the best of the 6 stories of the season, but with the inclusion of The 5 Doctors as part of the season, then of course that's got to be number 1. So that's it from me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for Season 21, starting with Warriors of the Deep, which was a story that I did love. But that was when I only saw a few classic series stories, and of course over time I've seen all of them, with all of these reviews coming for rewatches of them, and the same for the new series stories. So pretty much seen every single story now, and these are just rewatches for their respective reviews. So how will Warriors of the Deep fare in its 2019 rewatch and its review? Well, we'll find out soon enough, and then we'll be on to the rest of Season 1, the final season for Peter Davison, although sadly not the complete season. The final story will be Colin Baker's first story. So yeah, let's see how Season 21 goes down. 20 was pretty good, in all honesty, for the most part. But we'll see how Season 21 goes. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. But they got all of the main but that didn't interfere. Mawdryn, no, it's not. Will you stop burping? Talk about bringing back a classic villain who hasn't been seen for nearly 10 years with a whimper. No. The scenes I wanted more of, but not. The writer of this story superiorly. Because this, but me, and they do. And whilst King's Demons doesn't allow Turlo to become his own character, just without Black Guardian influence or hold over him, we still get a great character with. Sorry, hang on. And also, good honourable mention to the shout. Also, honourable shout out to. And this story is technically not part of season 20, but it is not a season 20. But of course, over time, I've seen more. As the last story will be Colin Baker. Fine. Until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys then, or next time.